So today's guest, I feel like I always say this, but today's guest is near and dear to my heart.
Hmm.
Um, wow, I feel a little emotional about it.
Oh, it's been a journey.
It has been. So I just want to introduce you, but I always feel like we have such deep conversations. So Caroline Seals, you have been someone that has been so special to me in my life. Not only has Caroline been a client a few years ago,
Mm-hmm.
you are also in my first beta training group called The Soul's Way, which is a mentorship and certification program. And you've been in groups and in person and Zoom. And you've just been someone that has been, to me, like, I think if I picked a word out, I would pick the word authentic.
Oh, that's so kind.
And so I think today what I'd love to talk about with you is how to be authentic when we don't always feel authentic, how to stand in our light and trust in God and, be that person that you and I have always talked about being, like that light of our soul, but doing it in a world that sometimes wants to squash it.
Mm.
And also being that light in the world and with our families and kids and work, and being that light, and also really hearing the voices in our head and really being true to our light, but also listening to, like, everybody, we have stories, right? You've grown up with a story and I've grown up with a story. And sometimes that story makes us want to crawl into a rock and hide. And that voice in our head sometimes says, yeah, you should hide. Right. And so let's start there. Tell me a little bit about what your light looks like. Let's start with that.
I love that. I've always just, like, since I was really young, had this kind of like prayer and ask to God of like, what am I supposed to do? And I still don't really have the answer, but what I've always known is that, like, I'm just here to spread God's light and love. And I've wanted a more like definite answer of like, well, how and what does that really look like? And do I do that in my career or what? And I don't know, but I'm just doing it. I'm just leaning in and following God, and to your point of, sharing our light. And I think it's just about, finding ways to do that like every single day, no matter if you're at the grocery store or, at home doing like bedtime with kids or whatever it is. And so a little bit of like my story and how we came to meet, and my spiritual journey was like what I would explain as a dark night of the soul, right? Like I was in a really dark place and just kept digging that pit deeper and deeper for a few years. And when I finally, kind of came to this place of, okay, what am I going to do here? Am I going to keep, I don't want to keep being miserable. Right. So either I'm not going to be here or I'm going to choose to be here. And in that, I grew up in religion, and that just didn't seem like the place for me to really heal. My community had kind of dissolved. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I think I need to like do some spiritual work. Like, let's do that. Mm-hmm. And that's how we came to meet. And it's so wild that it's really only been like 3 years, but like longer. Yeah, it does. It's been a huge transformation. And I wasn't in light. I couldn't be light. I couldn't spread light. I couldn't show up for others. I couldn't do anything when I was in that place, right? Yeah. And so it started with, getting myself like well and healed and whole. And I know that's a journey, right? Mm-hmm. Like I'm not there. I don't know if I'll ever be there, but I'm going down the path. and in a very, different place now. I'm so grateful.
I mean, I know your story, but it's yours to tell, of course, and how much and how little you want to tell. One thing that pops out at me is some of the resistance that I've seen with maybe a little with you and other people when we dove and dive into like the ancestral healing. And it reminds me of like why so many people have that. I mean, I think we all have a dark night of the soul, right? And it comes up because of maybe your current the situation you were in at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And we all have that, like, okay, my life right now is this way, which is creating this dark night. Do I want to live? Do I want to die? Like, where do I want to be in this?
Mm-hmm.
And what I keep getting pulled into is like, do you think your dark night of the soul was your literal circumstances? Or do you also think that it was also an ancestral circumstance, a lineage issue that created some of this story that brought you to the journey of here I am plopped in Ariela's office?
I think it's both, right? I think because of my physical circumstance and what was happening, it launched me into this, but it brought me to the root, right? And the root was not what was actually happening. And there was a lot of ancestral, healing that needed to happen, and to kind of unearth these like really deep rooted, issues. And, like I was thinking about it today because what we really got into was like deeply like unworthiness was just a part. It was like limiting beliefs that had, made my view and my life and what I thought could be like so small. Like it was just like, I felt like I was just like squeezing myself, right? With these limiting beliefs of like, you can only be this big and nothing more. And I was so closed off. And so once we kind of got into that, there were all these other pieces. And I think, like fear, shame, unworthiness, like all of these things that came up. It was interesting to kind of learn and see how, where those maybe originated. It's like, oh, they weren't really mine. They're passed on. And then to kind of see that through line in, my family and in my lineage. And even though I don't know, a lot of my, extended family and grandparents like very well, I can still kind of see those patterns and imagine like, well, it must be there because it's hitting me pretty hard.
Right. I think it is common for all of us to have those voices in our head, right? And the patterns that we've lived with for a long time. And then recognize that, maybe it's not all mine, right? It's not all of ours. What do you think changed your mind? Because really that's choice, right? Like, where do you think you changed your mind? Because somehow you let in more light. More, you noticed there were two channels, right? That one single channel of this is how you really are, which was not true. So where do you think it shifted when you came in with like, wait, there's another story here that I'm not telling myself?
I think it's actually a pattern that I have. So I'm pretty stubborn, and I went several years just digging deeper and deeper. And I kind of tend to do this in my life to where I get to the point where I have to do everything myself. I have to figure it out. And then I just finally like give up, and I'm like, I'm just going to give it to God. Like, I don't know. It's not up to me anymore. I can't do it. God, here you go.
Yeah.
And I think that's really where it came out of. It was like, it's not fair for me to live this way. It's not fair for my family, right? For my spouse. And like, this is miserable for myself. I'm making other people miserable. Like, I can't go on. So let's freaking do this.
Right.
And I just think it was just this like pull, maybe it was from my soul, knowing that like, you're not done here and you're actually just beginning, because that is what like cracked me open,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like I can't imagine. I feel like I have such a different perspective and view on life and understanding. And I'm continuing to grow and learn and understand and building this beautiful life. And like I'm so happy that like, you know, God or my soul or whatever was higher, like sparked that in me of like, okay, it's time. Like you gave
Right.
yourself 3 years in misery. Like
Right.
let's
go.
flip that off. Yeah, let's
Yeah.
go.
I mean, I almost wonder, like what you said is like, it's almost like I give up, right? I would say it sounds like you surrendered, like you turned it over, you surrendered and you said, okay, if this is all there is, then this is it. But if there's something more, I give up. I can't do it this way anymore. And I do often find that when we are on that precipice of, I literally can't go on this path anymore. I literally see that it's hurting everybody around me. Sometimes we're on our knees, right? That dark night of the soul where we literally do that act of surrender is huge. It feels to me like a lightning bolt, right? That came in and said to you like, okay, there's more here. Let's show you.
Yeah. Yeah. Surrender is the perfect word. And it's just so funny because this has been a pattern in my life. And when I do get to the point of finally surrendering, that's when things are brought to me, handed to me, like out of nowhere. And it's way better than what I asked for, than what I ever expected, than what I ever could have imagined every single time. And I think that was like true of this. Like I didn't know what I was doing or what would come, but I was like, all right, let me just try this. And
Are you talking about this?
Yeah, just like, I mean, you know, going down this like spiritual healing path.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think I just had always thought of like the way you have to heal is like you have to go to therapy and you have to dig into it and like relive it. And it's like, it's hard and it takes a lot of work and it's messy and miserable and all these things. And then I came and found and, you know, began this healing journey with you. And you were like, what if it's just like easy?
Not so much.
You're like, what if it's just easy? And what if we
Right.
just release this? And what if we just, you know, unearth it and hold it and then we just let it go? And I was like, yes, that sounds good.
Yeah.
And I haven't looked back, right?
That's amazing. That's amazing. I do feel like sometimes we do, especially, I think you and I are similar in terms of like overthinking, overanalyzing, being in our heads a lot. And that overanalyzer can make it hard. That part of us can make it hard on our journey because we are taught, like if you go to therapy, and there's nothing wrong with therapy, but if you go to therapy, you're going to dig. And even like I'll have people that say to me like, oh, well, if you do ancestral healing, I've already done that. Right. I went to therapy. I already talked about all my relationships. And I'm like, well, that's a little different. Yeah. But I do feel like there is a way to do this very deep soul searching work by almost holding God's hand so that you don't go down that path of this happened to me and then this happened. Yes, we all have a story. But it doesn't mean it has to be hard. Especially because I think when you are talking about this dark night of the soul, you already did hard. I don't know if you could get much like harder, right? You were in that precipice of something's going to rip out here. To me, that was your hard moment. And the rest was just up. But I also think you had a deep, maybe a foundation religiously. I don't know what you think about that, like in terms of the idea of God. Not everybody has that foundation, right? I mean, I didn't have a foundation of God until I was like 22, but I don't think you need a foundation. But I am curious, like, how did God in your life previously, did it help at all with this surrender?
Yeah. You know, I was just talking to a friend and she kind of said the same thing to me of like, you know, I didn't have that foundation and I kind of wish I did because now as an adult, I don't have it. And I've been thinking about it a lot of like, oh, you still can, you know, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, my view has definitely shifted and expanded, and I've shared this with you, right? I'm very grateful that I grew up, with like a religious background and just kind of being in different churches and had exposure to different things. But, for me, I think I just got to a point where I felt like this is really putting, God and myself like in a box. And I'm just
Mm.
like, oh, God's so much bigger
Mhm.
than what I've been taught and what I've been shown. And so, I always had that very separate from religion. And there's
Yeah.
definitely been times where they were one and the same or where they kind of like intertwined. But like I learned some lessons very early on
Mm.
about church and like church is people and people are messy and like they
Right.
make mistakes. And so if you equate that to God, like you're really
There's
like
a
you're
separateness from it.
yeah, like you're gonna be disappointed, right?
Right.
You're looking at it from a different lens. And so I'm really grateful that I've always had that connection and that getting into this, it wasn't a turning my back from God because maybe religion wasn't feeling very like helpful and
Mm.
authentic and like the place for me, but really it just like leaned into the expansiveness and a better understanding of my soul and of God and of
Mhm.
like my purpose here and all of it.
Yeah,
So
that's beautiful.
yeah, I don't know if that
It
answers.
does, it does. It reminds me, so, I didn't grow up with the idea of God, but found it later on and then married a rabbi, right? My
Mhm,
husband, and we were, in charge of these large congregations. And I knew that there was a problem when I realized that God, people, and religion were all blurred.
mm,
And there's nothing wrong with religion, and
mhm,
I love, I love my religion. But when I realized that it was blurred, it made me understand that there has to be a separateness, a
mm,
sacredness. And I think that's what I saw in you,
mm,
even like from early on when we first started working together, and then knowing you now for 3 years. Um, what I see is almost like, and again, maybe this came from your upbringing, but maybe you pulled it out,
mm,
you extracted it from your upbringing. What I see in you is this relationship to God that is pure.
mm,
Like, to me, like, I always teach people, like, God can be in your everyday life, can be like as you walk down the street. And for me, watching you, it's like it's almost natural to you. I feel
mm,
like you have a like this very deep, close relationship with the divine
mm.
that a lot of people don't have or struggle with.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I think it one was something kind of rooted, right? But
Mhm.
I am grateful that I did spend so much time, at church and kind of in this path to kind of build that and
Mhm.
that relationship. And then it's obviously very much evolved and changed over the years. But I'm also really grateful that, something that I remember like thinking about early on is, some of my friends, would go to Catholic mass and they'd have
Mm.
to do confession. And I just couldn't wrap my head around like, but why do you have to talk to a priest to talk to
Right.
God? Like that doesn't feel. And so, just to
That's
your
what I mean about the purity of it.
right. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And so to your point of like, no, we have this direct access and I've just always had like this dialogue, right? This inner
Yeah.
dialogue, or whether it's like silent prayer or whatever it is. And like I've had these experiences where like God has just shown up
Mm.
and it's always when I surrender.
Yeah.
And it's given me so much faith. It's given me
Mhm.
so much trust.
Mhm.
And I'm so grateful for it. Like
Yeah.
I don't know. I the way I'd explain it is that I've been so held and loved and
Mhm.
guided, like even through all the hard stuff. And
Amazing.
so now I'm at a place where I can like look back a little bit and be like, but look like what God gave me and how good and
Yeah.
faithful and, more than I could have imagined. And like,
That's beautiful.
I just had someone ask me the question, like, what keeps you up at night?
Yeah.
And I was like, what? Nothing. What do you mean? Do things keep you up at night? Right. And it's really just because like, I just give it to God. I have so much trust and faith that, you know, everything it's already taken care of. It's already taken care of. I
love
mean, this is like so silly, but we're entering the like getting into school phase. And that was like this morning. You have to
With
like
your daughter?
you have to like do the, you know, online applications.
Yeah.
And it's been the most like stressful thing. And we're just
Yeah.
sweating bullets
I
over it.
understand
Yes, with 4.
Uh-huh.
Oh my gosh. And so my husband and I, we get all amped up and then we're like, it's all taken care of. It doesn't even matter.
Yes.
Just fill out the form.
Right.
God already has it covered. And so I'm just
I
not
love that.
I'm not gonna worry because I'm gonna trust.
That's like, it's what you're describing is what I love, because you're really bringing the divine into the real world, right? You're not sitting in a church or you're not even going into nature and
Mhm.
praying. And I think a lot of people think that you have to go out into the world to create some sort of ceremonial sacred space. And, you know, I was driving 5 boys in a carpool, 5 8th grade boys in carpool this morning. And I was like, you know, just chatting away in my head with the divine while I have all these boys in my car. I mean, so, you know, like you're filling out a form for your child's school and it's getting stressful and you feel amped up about it. And also the fact that you can turn to your husband and say, like, it's okay, we're going to let it go and give it to the divine. Like, that's such a beautiful thing that you guys have together. But for you to bring the divine into the sacredness of raising your child, filling out forms, driving from here to there, like, that's what I love about you, right? Like, because you text me and say, I just saw a hawk and I feel so guided, and, you know, and we like birds.
Yes.
But it is like the divine is in every part of your life, and you can feel that.
Yeah. And I think it's like it's a practice, right? It's like a muscle. And I think the last few years I've been really working on it to where it does feel like this second nature. And yes, like definitely I have my moments of getting really caught up in things and I need to bring myself back and ground and surrender and all of that. But yeah, it's also living in just like this posture of expectation. Like I expect, and I know this is such a silly one, and I'm sure lots of people say this, but I pulled in here and I'm like, there's going to be a spot for me right up front. Like, thanks God. Thanks for, for having this spot. And it was right up front, or like seeing these signs while I'm out and about just in my day. And like, I know a couple times now, I've been like, walking and praying or something, and like this huge hawk will just like come down and go right past me, just above my head, like right next to me. And it's just wild.
Yeah.
But I think you have to be like looking for it, right? You have to be expecting it. You have to be looking for it. And it takes a lot of the pressure off of me. It takes a lot of the stress off of me of like, I went through some stuff with my work last year. They did furloughs and we survived that. And then they did layoffs and then they sold us. And I'm like, it's fine. I'm like, it doesn't matter. It's all taken care of.
That's
Who
incredible.
knows? And if it doesn't work out the way I think it's going to be something better.
Right.
So I'm like, I don't really care. It's fine.
Yeah,
It's like,
amazing.
aren't you worried? I'm like, it'll all work out. It's fine. And it has.
That's great.
And I still very much feel that. Like, I don't really have this like certainty or security, but I'm like, I don't know. We're just going to go with it. And if it doesn't work out, God has something better planned for, for me. So
it reminds me of a book that I always love called Magic in the Ordinary.
Oh,
right. So like what you're describing is, like you said, you have to look for it. You have to turn your eyes. So what you're describing, your story versus your light, and your story got you to your light, right? For whatever reason, you had to go through whatever you've gone through to get to that dark night of the soul. And it's part of the lights it's part of your soul purpose. It's part of your story. It doesn't get thrown out, but it doesn't have to be torn apart and dug into all the time. And then like, I see it as this beautiful journey that you are on, and bringing in the divine and all that God surrender and trust and faith is you have to wear different color glasses.
Yes.
And it is a muscle.
Yeah. And I, have really realized that where you put your focus and your energy is what will come to be.
Yeah.
And that is not I bury my head in the sand and don't want to see what's going on in the world.
Right.
But also, I've just decided I'm not going to give it energy. And so I'm going to focus my energy on spreading that love and that light.
Mm-hmm.
It's so much bigger. It's so much more powerful than adding to this collective, just like panic. Right. And so, it is this fine line, and I do try to be sensitive because it's not everything's the best ever, right? Like there are some really serious, heavy things happening in the world, in everyone's lives, and I think if we choose to just focus in on that, then that's what is going to come to be. And, I think like my light and being able to share God's light through me, has really come from like listening. I love to like go out with friends, like listening to friends and sharing words of encouragement and truth, right? I love to like, in these conversations, be like, can I like just pause and share some truth? Because I hear you're saying something really negative about yourself, and like, that's not true. And I have to do that with myself as well of like, okay, what is the truth? And when things come up, to be able to recognize it and call it and be like, oh, that is not truthful. Like, I don't agree with it. When like fear and unworthiness and all of these things come up. Yeah. And, like I shared with you, even being here today, I like, I was like, oh, can I like cop out of this? Because like, this really scares me to come and, to share some of my story and open up about my spiritual journey. And as soon as I did, I was like, that was a decision 100% in fear. I knew I shouldn't have. Let me reel it back in. Let's redo this. And kind of like dive into it. But yeah, it's really hard sometimes.
It is. My next question was about unworthiness, and you answered it basically, but it's so interesting because what you're saying is we're not without, like, just because you have this light within you and you've turned on the lights and you're wearing the different color glasses now, it doesn't mean that you're not going to feel like you have like an imposter coming on a podcast, right? We had a moment where we were going to cancel, right? Maybe you weren't into it, and I could feel. I also had a moment. I have moments every time I come on here where I'm like, oh, can I do this? Can I really do this? Right? Because I don't plan usually, and I just let it come out. But there is a faith and a step you have to walk into to be able to do that. And so what you're saying basically is like, you still feel, and I feel like there's unworthiness that comes up. There's imposter syndrome. There's shit that hits the fan. It doesn't look like roses just because when you talk, you sound, it reminds me of me. When you talk, like if you and I hung out together, I feel like we would be like little girls, like in the field of sunflowers. Right? But I know you and I know me. Like it doesn't come without some serious talking to of like when we get to that field of sunflowers and we're frolicking, it doesn't mean we frolic all day long and we just sit in this Pollyanna world. We have some serious shit that comes up, and sometimes we listen to it and sometimes you don't. And sometimes you have to call me back and say, okay, Ariela, we're doing this.
Yeah. Yes.
Right. So tell me a little bit about your like how you go through that,
Mm.
like the unworthiness or the imposter syndrome. Like, let's go a little deeper into that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've had a few things recently, this being one. And I think now that I'm more aware, when something brings up like a fear or an unworthiness, like I know it. And so, the first thing I try to do is like name it,
Yeah.
right? And then I just like rebuke it, right? I'm like, no, not today, Satan, kind of thing. And I saw this really funny video, and it was this girl, and she was saying how she like named her mind like some name, like, Jessica. And so
Uh-huh.
whenever she gets these, thoughts or feelings that are not true, right? That are of fear or unworthiness or something, she like talks to herself and she's like, Jessica, not today. Like, pipe down. Like, leave me alone.
Right.
Kind of go have a snack.
Right.
And so I think it's being aware, and then I get to make the decision, right? And so in that, of okay, this makes me really nervous. This makes me fearful. This makes me feel like an imposter. No, I don't agree with that. That is not truth. I'm going to speak God's truth into myself right now. And I'm going to jump in and do it. And I'm just going to pray and be held and guided by God. And like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to pray. God is with me. And no matter how I'm feeling, I'm just going to go. And I just, went around the world, and I've never traveled.
You just did?
Yeah.
Oh.
And for work, I had this amazing
Oh.
opportunity. And, the few days leading up to it, I was just like, I need to cancel my flight.
Right.
I cannot do this. And because I felt so strongly like I have to cancel, I can't do this, I was like, you have to do this. This is really making you nervous. This is what you wanted.
Right.
Just pray and try to have some peace about it, and know that it's all taken care of, and just go. Go and do it. And it's really hard, like even just in sharing stuff about myself with like friends or with certain people, like I definitely feel, very guarded in a lot of ways, because it's hard, but you kind of have to take that leap.
Yeah, there's a book, Shonda Rhimes. I think she wrote a book called The Year of Yes.
Okay.
And it reminds me of what you're saying. Is like, okay, I'm scared. I don't feel worthy. I feel nervous, but I'm going to say yes anyway. Right. And then doors open for you when you say that yes.
Yeah.
I also wonder if sometimes that Jessica person,
I know. All the Jessicas, we love you.
Right?
We need a new name.
I'm going to start calling mine Jessica.
Yeah.
I wonder if that person inside of us that's like, you can't do this. This is a no. This is a protective part of us, right? We all have that piece. I was working on mine recently, and I realized like she's actually younger, right? It's actually a part of us that's maybe a younger version of us that that had to put the brakes on maybe. And so she's climbing into the front seat, and she's like, we're not going around the world, Caroline. What are you thinking? Because she's 8, right? And the way that I see it is usually like we put those little girls or those little boys in the back seat of the car and put her seatbelt on, because 8-year-olds shouldn't be driving the bus. So I do sometimes wonder if it is that like younger part of us. Sometimes it's just plain, would you say Satan?
Yeah,
I mean, sometimes it's just
kind
like
of
that
like a joking,
nagging,
just,
right? Like,
just like an
sometimes
untruth, or maybe
it's just totally untrue. It's a pattern.
Yeah.
And then sometimes I think it's deeper. It's like that younger part of us that is scared, so I do think there's a little discernment in there of like, who's talking right now, if we have time to deal with that.
Yeah. I definitely agree with that. And that's a really interesting thought too, because I think I've always just thought, I mean, I'm very like mind forward, right? And so mind and ego. And so I think I've kind of thought about it from that lens. But that's very true of like, is this an inner child coming? Like where's
Right.
the root
Who's
really
talking?
of this? Who's talking here and why?
Right.
And kind of like it's good to have that discernment and then to sit in that for a minute and to understand it so that you can figure out the best way to move forward for you. So if that's right, okay, she needs to be buckled,
Right.
and she needs to be told
She's
everything's
okay.
gonna be okay, and I'm gonna hold your hand,
Right.
and
Kind of like
then-
your younger daughter, your little daughter, right?
yeah,
Like you wouldn't let her drive the car,
yeah,
but you might also tell her, I'm going to take care of you. I have you.
yeah,
Versus the other voice that may just be this nagging pattern of like, you can't do that. That's not right. Why do you always mess up? Right. And that voice might just need to be like, I'm canceling you.
yeah.
I'm not going to listen to this because this is not for my highest and best good. And then it sounds like, I know you always think you're a mind person and you're not really like a feeler in your body.
I'm working on it.
I kind of see you as both. I do. I think that maybe perhaps God lives, in here, and that's where your connection is.
Yeah.
To me, I can see both. I see both. To just kind of like summarize our talk together, what do you wish for when you think about like who you imagine yourself being with, like if you truly believe that God fills you? Is there anything that you would wish for or imagine or believe about yourself that is true that you'd like to step into more? Does that make sense?
Yeah. I don't know. That is a great question. And I can think of some things that are more just like, very kind of like physical or worldly, right? Like creating this life that I want now that, my mind has expanded, right? And I'm not putting myself in this little box. But, I think really, it's to just be like a reflection, right? Like I want to just reflect God in everything that I do. I want to share this light. I want to bring more light here, to others. And I don't really know how or what that looks like. It's like, okay, what's the next right thing to do? And just one step at a time. But yeah, I'm going to have to, I think
that's a perfect answer.
Yeah.
I don't think it's about, I want to go do whatever. I'm going to go be whatever you're going to be. It's not about what you're going to do. I think what you said, because I knew you were going to say it, I think what you said was so perfect. I want to be a reflection of the divine. I want to share more of God's light. And I love it because it doesn't matter what you do, right? What matters is I'm listening, God. I'm asking, I'm opening my heart. I'm asking that you move through me in a deeper way so that I may share more of this light that wants to come through me.
Yeah.
To me, most people would answer that question when I asked it. They would tell me what they dream of physically. I want to be an astronaut. I want to have a farm. I want to be a beekeeper.
Yeah.
Right? Like, but I love that answer. To me, that it doesn't matter what you do with it.
Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't matter. I got really hung up for a while on like that, it needs to be my career. Like my career needs to align with how do I, bring this light to others and to the world. And that's just not true. And so I'm kind of, working on not, on releasing these limiting beliefs and not creating limitations for myself. And if I felt really strongly about like, well, this is the way I'm going to do it, like I would love to share that. And I just don't. So I'm going to keep, keep walking that and, just listen to the guidance and see how I can, continue to share some light. And maybe it's just things in really, really small little moments, right?
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, like we were walking around the neighborhood yesterday and it was a really windy trash day the other day. The neighborhood's full of trash. So my daughter and I were picking up all of it. We're
Nice.
helping Mother Earth. And, I'm like, maybe that's a good way to just share a little bit of light and love of, something
Those
so
small
small.
things.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. So beautiful. I just want to thank you for your vulnerability and your openness, and for you to step out of that fear of being an imposter or unworthy, because I like that you said that, because it makes this podcast more real. Right? It's like, why not be authentic?
Yeah, you said authentic when we first started. And so what's interesting, I'm curious if you agree with this, is that, I've heard people say love is one of the highest frequencies, but actually what's higher than that is authenticity and being able to step into your true authenticity. And I do feel that very much. I feel unapologetic about it. And I still feel like I kind of meet people where they are, right? Like I'm not going to come out to someone who would, have no idea or belief or kind of anything of like maybe like the spiritual realm, and start talking to them at that level.
Right.
And so while I try to show up very, authentically, like in my life and with others around me, like I still kind of always filter of like, well, where are they at? And like, how can I meet people where they are and still be authentic and not like come in hot, like you should go do ancestral work.
Right.
When people are like, what are you talking about? What are you drinking? But yeah, that's really what it comes down to. And I think that we have ways, and that doesn't mean you have to go into your work meeting and like, jump on the table and start talking about your spiritual journey. But I think there's these small little ways that we can connect and be authentic and, bring more light here.
It reminds me, what you just said reminds me of a poem, and I don't know who wrote it, and I cannot remember all of it, but it starts with this saying at the very beginning of the poem is something like, there is a silent revolution happening. And it's all about authenticity. And the change makers aren't always standing on top of the desk and demanding to be seen in their spirituality. In fact, I don't believe that's authentic. The silent revolution is what you're saying is, I meet people where they're at because that's where God meets them, right? How can I expect you to be different if God is holding you in that light exactly where you are right now? And so the silent revolution is to unapologetically be me. And when you say that to me is truth. It's authenticity. I stand in, no matter who comes into my path, I'm not going to shove it down your throat. I'm going to authentically be me and allow you to authentically be you. To me, that is a change-making statement that you just said. Imagine if more people were like that.
I love that so much. I'm going to need the poem.
I'm going to have to find it.
Please.
It's years old.
Please find it.
Okay.
And, the piece of that is allowing others to be them and meeting them where they are and kind of being able to see it, right? Of like this zoomed out version of like, okay, why'd that person just yell at me? And it's like, oh, it's not about me. They're right where they are, and that's good and that's okay. And like this whole journey of, it's not about judgment and it's just about love. And this journey has given me this perspective, and it's helped me to love others and to have more empathy because I can see where others are at, right? Even if I don't know the full story, I can see and I can respect, and I don't need to change, right? But it's like, even if they're not presenting as their most authentic self and all these things,
Right.
it's like, oh, that just feels like some fear, and that's where they're at, and that's
Yeah.
okay, kind of thing.
It's beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you so much for
Thank
having me. I
you.
appreciate you.
It was so fun. And I look forward to your like unfolding, right? I think you're already unfolded, but I'll just conclude with, I think something you might have said in the beginning when you got out of your dark night of your soul and realized like the light of God is within you. There's this eternity and endless ways to go here. And I'm just so excited to be a part of your journey and see where the next road takes you. And in the middle of that road, I can see you like picking wildflowers and looking at hawks and picking up trash and finding God in all the magic moments. And I'm just like, we need to take a walk together.
Yes, I
We'd
would.
have a very fun walk.
I would love that so much. Thank you.
Thank you.